Well, morning everyone. Lovely sunny day, just right for farmers. Stop the moaning about the weather for a moment anyway. So welcome to the Hills Green Rural Roundtable, our monthly series of monthly webinars on hot topics. And this morning we have got Adi, who's our marketing strategist, going to be talking about content marketing. But before we do that, let's just say a couple of hellos. So like I said, I'm Daniel Bennett. I'm the business development manager here. So I help clients sort of come on board, sort of see what they can get from their marketing. And so we're joined by a few people here this morning. Some I know, some I don't. Hello, Nadia. How are you? Just tell us who you are and where you're from.
Hi, yeah, I'm Nadia from Platts Agriculture. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You work on these things. We supply mainly bedding to dairy farmers all over the UK and Ireland. Clients of Hills Green. What else do you want to know?
Yeah, that's great. That's great. It's only a very quick hello, and and I won't ask everybody, but it's just get a feel for who's in the room. So, Philippa.
Yes, good morning. My name's Philippa. I'm based in Wiltshire. I'm the owner of Wits End Business Services, which is a background PA secretarial virtual assistant. I have a special interest in anything to do with sort of farming, agriculture, as well. I'm also a member of IAXA as well. So
Great stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And Martin.
Hi, so I'm Martin Cook. I've got a business, Roke and Cook Limited, with my wife. We're both chartered accountants. Between us, we've got over 20 years experience working primarily in the rural sector. So although we don't focus solely on the rural sector now, that's obviously where a lot of our expertise lies, and something we're very passionate about. We sort of primarily focus on bookkeeping, payroll, and R&D tax credit services. So yeah.
Did I hear you right? You were childhood accountants.
Chartered. Sorry.
When you said your wife, I was thinking childhood sweetheart, and I was thinking childhood accountants.
Accounting prodigies. Yeah.
Maybe there's a differentiator there for you. The only childhood accountants in the country.
Yes. Yeah.
Thanks, Martin. Tony.
You're welcome.
Don't forget to unmute yourself.
Tony Rimmer, Director of Rostons. We're a firm of chartered surveyors and agricultural valuers, dealing with farmers across Cheshire and adjoining counties. And yeah, also use Hills Green a bit. They're quite good occasionally.
From time to time. Thank you, Tony, for those kind words. Okay. And just also, we've got a new face here at Hills Green. So Tia, would you just like to say hello?
I'm Tia, and I'm here doing some work experience for Hills Green and currently really enjoying it.
Good.
Right thing to say.
You can stay a bit longer. So, okay, what we'll do, if we're going to be finished by 9:30, we like to keep these things to time. So, obviously people make commitments and have diary commitments. So we will wrap up by 9:30. Adi, just tell us, who are you and where'd you come from?
Okay, so hopefully you can see a big picture of me on the screen at the minute, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So I'm Adi. I recently joined the Hills Green team. I say recently, it's 3 months now. And my background's predominantly sales and marketing within agriculture, more focused around the machinery sector. So my background's with Caterpillar and John Deere predominantly, and more recently with the John Deere dealership. So I really, I have a fascination with user interaction. So, ever since I was driving a tractor, I was fascinated about how brands attracted people and how they tried to woo them to their side or how they communicated with them. And predominantly what I do at Hills Green, really, I'm the marketing strategist here, and I look at things like SEO. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to analytics. Dan, I think, is probably a bit sick of me talking about the data, but I really enjoy getting into the nitty gritty, as it were, and really understanding how people interact with businesses online and how we can improve that experience for them. And I also look at marketing strategy in the overall direction of how we can push a business forward through its marketing. And yeah, I guess, I love a graphic. You'll notice that as I go through the presentation. If I can say it with an icon or a picture, I will. I'm not one for lots of text and heavy information. Although, at some points through this, I'm sure I'll probably start talking in technical lingo. And if anybody does struggle or doesn't understand, this is a friendly space. Just put your hand up and ask, what the hell do you mean? That's fine. So yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you all. I'm looking forward to this.
Great, Adi, thanks very much. And obviously, Adi and I work very closely together, and actually our desks are side by side. Unfortunately, he's a fountain of all knowledge. When when I reach the limits of my knowledge, I can turn to Adi, and yeah, always very helpful. So look, if you've got any questions, use the chat box, stick it in there. If I think the question is sort of appropriate to that moment, I will try and interrupt Adi's flow and interject then. If the question is probably a more general question, we'll keep until the end, and we'll get Adi answering those later on. So Adi, tell us about content marketing.
Okay, so yeah, so I guess content marketing is quite interesting and something I really enjoy, and the guys at the office will know that I have this thing about big rock content, and it's one piece of content marketing, how it works, and I just find it fascinating. I find the whole principle of content marketing fascinating. But today we are primarily going to look through kind of an overview of what the kind of things you'd look at when you're building a content strategy, really. And a content strategy is really a good place to start. So we're going to have a look at what content marketing is. We're going to look at how to find a topic and a keyword for that. We're going to have a quick chat around an audience and knowing your audience, particularly the types of content, the content user experience, which often is something that gets overlooked, how you can distribute your content, and then how do you measure it. So to kick off, I'm going to make a bold statement. Marketing is impossible without great content, and it's often seen that content marketing is a tactic, whereas in my view, content marketing is marketing. It's very, very challenging to do any marketing without content. So the definition of content marketing really is that it's the sharing of content online and the creation of it. But the key difference really, and where some people would argue that content marketing is a strategy, is that it doesn't explicitly promote a brand. So whereas with advertising, the focus may be on the brand or the product, the content you produce for that will be solely focused around those things. Content marketing can just be joining a conversation. It can be educating. It can be making observation. It can be anything, really. And it's about producing good content and good quality information that people want to read. Then at the bottom there's kind of a good little infographic really that I felt really demonstrated the process of content marketing. And the idea is to get someone to read your information, and if they like that information, they will start to promote your information for you or your content. And it may be they loop around that cycle for a while. And they sit there, they read, they talk about it to other people, someone else reads it, and they don't tend to move. But over time, you build a rapport with that person, and eventually they'll become a subscriber because you're delivering enough good content that people really enjoy and they want to know about it when it comes out. So they become a subscriber. And once you become a subscriber, the next stage really is to use that content to move people through. So they become an advocate of you because, when you're asked, how do you know so much about X, Y, or Z? You say, oh, well, actually, I read on this blog, or I follow these people on social media. And they really become an advocate for you and start to promote you more widely. And then eventually, when they get to a point where they have a potential pain or a challenge they need to solve, they will come to you because they are an advocate of your business. You can solve that problem, and they understand you can solve that problem, but they understand you've got the expertise in that area as well, and they become a customer. And that's the kind of very basic principles of how content marketing works. So as I said, content marketing can be seen as a tactic on its own, but from my point of view, it is very much ingrained with everything we do. From a marketing perspective, all the different tactics and channels we use require content to drive that. Now, what that content looks like, how it feels, is going to be very different for each channel. But fundamentally, a piece of content can drive your social media marketing. We all struggle with sitting there at the beginning of the month or the week and thinking, oh, what on earth am I going to post this week? And you think about PPC, that's probably one of the ones where people would say, actually, you don't need content for that. You're paying Google, you're getting your link at the top of the search results, and people click it and find me. But the fundamentals are, if somebody clicks that link and doesn't find something of value to them, they won't do it again. And there's a real challenge there in that you need to deliver something good for them early, to provide value and help them understand what it is you can do as a business, and how you can help them. And the best bit about content marketing, as I said previously, it's not just about your product. You can just demonstrate the fact you know about rural business, or about accountancy or childhood accountancy. It's whatever they're looking for. And I guess that's the important point. It's about what the customer is looking for. And this takes me to one of my favorite little graphics. I think the guys around Hills Green are probably a bit sick of seeing this, but I think what's really important is understanding where your customer is, or potential customer is, in their journey when they're online. And good content really addresses these areas. And in general, everybody goes through these stages. So we'll all start off in the awareness stage, where something's triggered us. We've sat there and gone, you know what, I think I need to buy a new car, or I need a new tractor. Let's make it a bit more relevant. I need a new tractor, and I don't know where to start, but I know I need a new tractor. And I'm now in the awareness phase. So I sit there and I think, right, okay, I need to go and find out some information about this. But I'm very much top level. I have no idea what I want. I don't know what works, what doesn't. So I'm just looking for some information. Then you get into the consideration phase, where I've done a bit of research. I found out that, John Deere is the best brand on the planet, and they're the ones I want to buy. And, I start to compare them a little bit, and I start to understand, is that really the difference? I go into the consideration phase, and then I look at John Deere a bit more in detail and understand, is that the right product for me? Do they offer what I need? And at that point, I've either made a decision that they are, or I've discovered they're not. And if not, I loop back into the awareness stage and I just start to look around again. If I do, I drop into purchase phase, and I've decided at that point, yeah, I'm ready. I want to buy a John Deere. And I'm really happy to go and make that purchase. So I start to look for pricing. I start to look for all kinds of information to do with actually buying that product. And then latterly, right at the end there, which is probably one of the most important phases, if I'm honest, is your post-purchase experience. How did I get on when I actually purchased? And somebody will take into consideration every single one of those stages in that post-purchase loop. And the great thing about content marketing is you can target people in every stage. So you can really deliver content that's specific to them to really answer the questions they're looking for. And by doing that, you may capture people who, you never thought might drop into your bucket, if you like. But you can also deliver great information to people who do, and start to build a real trust and connection between yourself and that potential customer. The next step really, once we understand how people start to look for what they want, especially online, is really knowing who they are. And this is something that, know your audience. It's kind of hammered into anybody in marketing, but it's critical, because if you're not speaking to that person, then there's going to be a real challenge, because you may have a great piece of information around an awareness piece, or how to choose the right tractor or buy the right laptop or whatever it might be. But if it doesn't resonate with that person, because of their demographic, their age, maybe the language used is different, maybe the way that they interpret that information is different. It could be too technical. There's a whole world of different things. And really having an understanding of who that audience is can be critical to creating the content that you want to use to deliver results. And I think one thing that's quite powerful, and I have actually seen a few people do this, is they create a persona, and they don't have to be complicated. I think a lot of people think personas and oh God, how do I make one of those? How do I do that? Just think of, the last person who walked into your shop or office and, who purchased from you and you thought, yeah, that was really good. They were the sort of people that I like to deal with and that's perfect for what we offer, and immortalize them in a page. What do they do? What do they like? Who are they? How old are they? What's their location? Have a picture of them, and when you're writing your content and looking at the content that you're about to produce, just, have a look at them, use them as your anchor to bring you back to, yeah, okay, Sally would love to read this. That's the key. So there's a bit of waffle. I think, there's a lot of kind of blue sky thinking up in the clouds and making sure we understand who our audience is and that kind of stuff. And I cannot stress how powerful that is. But really, you guys are here to understand. I've got a piece of pen and paper, and a piece of paper and a pen. In fact, we can't have a piece of a pen. And I need to do something with it. And really, the first place to start is setting goals. And everybody's heart sinks because they thought I was going to put some magic slide up. But set yourself goals. I cannot stress this enough. Understand what it is that you want to achieve from your piece of content. And it doesn't matter what it is. It can be anything from, I just want to see my website users increase. I just want to see more people like it and comment on it. It could be anything. It could be, I just want people who are 25 to 35 to engage with me a bit better. Or it could even be all the way through to return on investment. I want to make £6,000 of sales out of this piece of content. Those goals can vary, but I would stress to keep them within a framework of some kind. Now, the framework on there is the SMART framework, but make sure that what you're doing is, as it says there, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, because that will sit as your anchor. As you go through the process that, I'm about to talk through, you will really ask yourself some questions. Something might crop up like, oh, you know what, do I really need to spend £1,500 on video? And the answer, you've already answered your question in the goal. If your goal is to achieve X ROI and you need to spend £1,500 on video, does that work? The numbers are the numbers. If your goal is to increase users and you need to, I don't know, spend another 3 hours worth of work to create that piece of content, does that stack? Your answer is in your goal. And throughout the whole process of creating content, you should always refer back to that. So the first step really is to find a proven topic. And I think this is the single hardest point that people struggle with. And I do 100%. And I always tell people I'm great at giving advice. I'm terrible at actually taking my own advice. But, finding a proven topic is a challenge. And something I get asked about regularly, how do I know what to write about? and actually a lot of that information is in you. I think we disconnect when we talk about content. We start to think that it's disconnected from everyday life. The way I look at it is having a conversation. It's a one-way conversation because there's no one else there. It's just a piece of paper, but it's still a conversation. And really the content you create shouldn't be any different to what you would talk to somebody about, because that's what people want in return. When someone lands on your page, they want that feeling of having a conversation, of the warmth of a person behind the content. So I really would delve into your mind a little bit. And there's kind of 4 key areas where I'd suggest to first have a look at. Customer interactions, number 1. We all deal with current customers, potential customers, friends of customers, people within the industry. It doesn't matter who they are, but we all deal with them on a day-to-day basis. And in those conversations, people will ask us questions, topics will come out naturally, and that is great content. the content where people are asking you questions is the best content, because they're asking you for an answer. And if they're asking that question, there is no doubt that other people will be thinking the same thing, and be searching for it and looking for it and trying to understand it. Another good place is podcasts and media. So, I'm not advocating you have to listen to hundreds of podcasts. If you want to, feel free. But, just having a scroll around industry relevant topics, if for example, you're talking about agriculture, and you're trying to attract a certain sector, maybe have a look at the HDB podcast, the CLA podcast. What are the things that they are discussing? And are there anything in there, or is there anything in there that it might work for you and your business and your niche, and would help you to join that conversation of? The other place is forums and social. Now, this is very powerful. People very often now, and Dan says it quite eloquently, in the, we've moved from talking over the farm gate to talking to each other online, having those chats and conversations as farmers, or just, general people at the doorstep. We've moved away from that to very online, and to posting a question on the farming forum, or putting something on a group on Facebook to say, I'm struggling with this, how do I solve it? And that, it's gold dust. There's a lot of information in there. And the final one is competitors. Have a browse around, have a look. What are people in your niche, in your kind of sector, what are they talking about? Are those things relevant? Can you put your spin on it? By no means would I advocate copying, or even duplicating the content, because actually that can have some ramifications further down the line anyway, when it comes to, search engine optimization and that kind of stuff. But is there a conversation I can join? And that's really the key message under all of this. What conversations can I join? How can I add value to the people that I would like to do business with? So that's one way of looking for it. The other way is your website. I mean, your website can be as powerful as anything. And this is an example of the Hills Green website. These are our blogs. And, you can see from that there's some heavy traffic blogs in there that, people are interested in. But the best thing, and the thing I really like about analytics, and this is where I get a little bit nerdy, is actually you can filter that by conversion. So now what we're seeing here is how many people read a blog and then converted on our website. So provided us some detail, provided us some information. And those topics are very powerful. People were interested in marketing to farmers. So what can we do to talk more about marketing to farmers? And that is gold dust, because that's free information. It's yours. You can do something with that. And the other powerful piece of this is go and have a look at how that content was structured. Go and understand what worked and what didn't. Some of the blogs on there may have not worked quite as well as others. Well, was it the structure? Was it the images? Did I have a different conversational language? How did that resonate? What can I see that's different in those pieces of content that may have caused somebody to do more after reading that piece of content? The other thing is your search engine piece. That sounds like I have no idea what I'm talking about. The search box on your website. So that thing is incredibly powerful. And this is an example from an e-commerce site, but it applies whether you're e-commerce or not. We live in a world today where we are so used to just going on Google, searching what we want and having it delivered to us. Right there, top 2 or 3 results. That's exactly what we wanted. Click on it, I read it, and I go again. Done. Thanks very much. And the same principle happens when they're on your website. So when people land on a website, they very rarely navigate around it and try and find what they want anymore. What they'll do is go to the search box and say, I want to know about this. I want X delivered to me straight away. And what they'll do is they'll search for things that aren't on your site because they're looking for them, but they don't know if they're there yet. And that is basically a signal to tell you need to be looking at this. So for example, for this site, if we don't sell pliers, for example, in a month, 30 people have looked for pliers. I need to be getting a pliers product up on my site pretty quickly, because there are 30 people sat there who are willing to buy some pliers from me, but I just couldn't deliver them to them. And it's the same principle with content. People will probably drop on your site and they'll just search, because it's not Google, but they'll search on your site accountancy help, how do I get out of an agricultural tie, all kinds of different things. And that will provide you with just a basis of topics that your customers really want to know about. And it's a great place to start. So once you've found a topic, and hopefully, from those we should find one or two, the next thing is look for a keyword. Now, I've used the demonstration here of Google. There are a whole range of keyword finding tools out there. A lot of them are paid for because keywords are quite powerful things. So somebody's been smart enough to make money out of it. But, in terms of Ahrefs, SEMrush, these are kind of tools you can use to go and find these keywords. Google Ads actually have a free keyword search tool. So if you have any Google Ads or you have a Google Ads account, you can look on there. But if you're just looking for a kind of cheap and easy way to have a quick look at what could be a keyword for me, the best thing to do is go on Google and punch a word in. Come up with some core keywords that are relevant to that topic, and really start to just have a bit of a search around. And Google will try and deliver you the information you want. And you'll notice when you start to search, it'll drop down and you'll see variations on that keyword. And you can pick out of there anything that might work. So, I might be looking at trying to sell my John Deere tractor, for example, and agricultural contractor rates there have popped up second. Now, that's quite interesting for me because, that could be an awareness piece. People could be sat in the position right now where they're sitting there thinking, wow, do I spend quite a considerable amount of money on a new tractor, or do I move to contractors? And, this could be an opportunity for me to write a piece of content about why you should buy over using a contractor, or even vice versa. If I was a contractor trying to get business, it's the other way around, isn't it? But it's creating that content that's relevant to people so that they're searching it because it's appeared in Google, and they're in the awareness stage. So when I build that piece of content, I'll be very much using kind of a high level approach to what I'm talking about, but you're going to start gathering a lot of people to you and your business. And the other piece about keywords is it doesn't have to be a word. A keyword is also a phrase. It's fundamentally that key topic somebody's looking for. And the same thing applies. Have a look at some questions that people might be asking. And what I put into Google was completely nonsensical. How to agricultural. I mean, if anybody searches that, then maybe we don't want to be talking to them. But how to agricultural just indicates to Google pretty quickly, I'm looking for how to in the agricultural space. And they're actually starting to deliver to me common questions asked in that space. So how to buy agricultural land, that'd be a great one. Have a topic on how to buy agricultural land or the ins and outs of it. And you'll have your own knowledge and be able to pull on some of those things and conversations you've had to say, yeah, you know what, actually, I keep getting all these various questions that really are that topic. And that's really the way to do it, is to find the topic and find the keyword. The key with a keyword, see what I did there, is that it has to be searched. There's no point in coming up with your own keyword. And that's why using Google is quite powerful. The keyword is really the thing that connects your content and your site with Google and its search and what people are looking for. They create that connection between the two and drive people from one to the other. The other thing to think about when looking at keywords is keywords very much relate to our journey, the buying cycle. So awareness, consideration, and purchase. And I keep going back to it, and I will all the way through. But what people ask for in Google very much triggers and demonstrates to us what they are looking for. So, for example, in the awareness stage, the type of questions they ask are around how, what, where, why, the bigger picture kind of questions. They're looking for a guide, some tutorials, some ideas and help. They have no idea really what they need. They just know they need something. In consideration, usually they've identified what it is they want. They're just trying to figure out if it's right for them. And that means in general, they'll be using a brand name in their search. It might be John Deere tractor, it could be Platt's animal bedding. They've decided who they want. They're now looking for a reason to actually buy that thing. And then at the purchase stage, it's kind of split into two. They'll do a commercial investigation where they're looking at, which one's the best, which one's the cheapest, which one, should I go over the others? And then they'll look at a transaction phase. And really at the transaction phase that's where you just need to be able to convert somebody online. All they're looking for at that point is to get in touch with you somehow. So a good call to action, a good, easy way to get in contact with your business. So the other kind of thing around the keyword is expanding on it. Don't just settle for the first thing you see, because there is a lot out there. And again, using the example of Google as a kind of cheap, friendly way to start and get going with this kind of thing. If you type in the kind of topic and the working title you're with, the first thing you'll see is whoever ranks top for that piece of content. And you'll see here the Farmers Weekly ranks for this. But if you scroll all the way to the bottom, what you'll also see is some related searches. And these are quite powerful in that, Google has seen that these people will also search for these things. And it could just be simply, we can disregard half of them. It might be you find a golden nugget of information in there. And it's about just doing a bit of research, just understanding, having a look at the content that comes up, searching those things that come up. What does that content look like? What are they talking about? Is that right for me? Does it look popular? And here's another example of that, really. And as you can see, I've done 2 searches there. The best tractors in the UK, so that's very much kind of consideration transactional, whereas how to choose the right tractor is very awareness. I don't really know what I want. So the next kind of phase is making your content easily digestible. So we've found a topic. Well, we've put our plan together. We've got some goals. We know our audience. We've found a topic. We've got some keywords for that topic. But what do I do now? I need to actually put pen to paper and create that piece of content. And the key theme for creating new content is making it easily digestible. And the first step for that is, what does that content look like? What's the channel you are going to use to deliver that content? Is it infographics, social media, blogging? There is a whole range of things, and I'm sure I haven't captured them all on here, that you can use to convey your message. And there are some pretty key ones, some popular ones really, and that's infographics, blogs, webinars, like we're doing here, lead magnets and big rock. They're basically pieces of content that really attract people. They're very big, heavy, rich pieces of content that they create an exchange. So it's a place where you get some lead information, an email address and a phone number, and in return you deliver a really good piece of heavy content that people get a lot of value from. And podcasting is skyrocketing right now. It's incredibly popular. A lot of people enjoy it and they enjoy listening to it, and it's the freedom to listen to it whenever they like. But a good podcast is hard to do. But the first thing to do is consider what that type of content is going to look like. And then the next thing really is to ask yourself 3 key questions. And the first one of those is, are you comfortable creating that content? There is 0 point in you deciding to do a series of videos for your customers if you're not comfortable about being in front of the camera, because it will really be difficult for you to engage with it. It'll be difficult for them to watch, and it'll be really hard for you to get on board with the whole principle of regularly doing this kind of thing. If you get in every week and you think, oh God, I've got to do that video, and then you delay it and then you don't do it, it's not a great place to be. But you might be the next Ernest Hemingway. You might really enjoy writing. So create a blog. You might be creative. So go for an infographic, go for something visual. When you're starting out in content, just make it simple for yourself to do. The next thing is it the right type of content for your audience? So not only for yourself, but white papers was a good example of content up there. I don't know any farmer who reads a white paper, if I'm honest. There might be a few, but why would I create a white paper if someone's not going to read it? If my audience, because I've done my work and I've had a look around, I know who my audience is, and I know they don't spend a lot of time on YouTube. Well, if they're not a lot of time on YouTube, then I'm not going to create a video. But what I do know is they do like to consume written media, or they do like to spend time on social media. So the content I'm going to create will be very much focused around those things. And the final thing is resource. Do you have the resource to create the content? And that, it doesn't have to just be you. That can be Hills Green, cheeky plug, or it could be anybody, any agency, any member of staff, anybody. Do you have the time, the money, the resource to be able to create the content that you'd like to? Again, you go back to the video example. Video is traditionally seen as quite a heavy thing to produce. I would argue differently, but that might be for a different round table. But the key is, do you have physical time and all the money to get somebody to do what it is you want to do? I hope everybody's still awake. I can't see everybody, but I'm hoping they are. So the next piece is content user experience. And user experience is a funny word. I think user experience is very much reserved for developing a website, an app, a process. Everybody looks at things like user experience when they talk about a website, but when you're creating a piece of content, I think it's very rarely brought to the forefront of your mind. And this is something I very, very often talk about. In the year 2000, the average attention span of a human was 12 seconds. And now it's 8 seconds. So we have a 4-second drop in our attention span. And to put that into some perspective, goldfish, who, they're the butt of the joke about having very short attention spans, is 9 seconds. So the joke might need to be rewritten soon, because actually we have a shorter attention span than a goldfish. And that is primarily due to the amount of content as human beings we are consuming day to day. If you think about your phone, as you walk down the street, there's billboards, there's buses advertised, there's shop windows, there's everything. People are sending you emails, you're looking on adverts on TV. The amount of content we get is huge. So we've become very good at very quickly identifying, is that piece of content right for me? Should I spend some time on it? Because my time's precious. And that is something that's really important to consider when you're creating your content. So here's a piece of content I created. It took me hours. And, it's a blog. Okay, so it's a written blog. And I've landed on the page and I've had a look at this. And within 8 seconds, I'm immediately looking for the back button, because it's heavy. There's a lot of text. There's very little imagery. It's very close together. There's no white space. It just looks like it's going to be heavy going. So if we have a look at how we can make that better and easier for somebody to look at, have a look at this example. There's a lot more white space. The paragraphs are split up. There's more imagery. I can very quickly associate with where I need to have a look at. And really the key thing is that people don't read online. So when any content you create, the best thing to do is to throw the rule book out the window. If you're writing a book, you're writing an article, a newspaper article, whatever it might be, it's very traditional in terms of, we start at the beginning and we'll read every word all the way through and decide if we like that piece of content. Online, because it's so instant, it's so quick, we very much just scan it. Can I find the information I need and can I read that quickly? And so there's a few things we can do with our piece of content to help that. And, we can highlight keywords. We can, put meaningful subheadings in. So if people are looking at, the overall piece of content is about buying a tractor, but really what I want to know about is operator comfort. Is there a heading in there that sort of indicates to me that I actually really need to just read this piece? Use bulleted lists, make it simple and easy to digest, have an idea per paragraph. Don't try and fill loads of information in one place. And one that people find quite difficult to do, and I do, is starting with a conclusion. It's a pyramid, it's an upside down pyramid, if you like. We don't need to set the scene and put the plot in place and have a bit of a description and then conclude it at the end like we traditionally would. What we need to do is tell people the conclusion at the top, because at that point they can very quickly identify, yeah, I need to know a bit more about how they got to that conclusion, because that's on my wavelength, or that sparks some interest in me. And the other thing is half the word count. When you would traditionally look at writing a piece of work and it's 700 words, just half it. Don't write 700 words. There's a place for good heavy content, definitely, but the way it's structured and the way you put it together is quite important. But I say these things as guidance. The best thing to do is to start writing. And someone's said to me previously when we started talking about content writing, and he's very good at what he does. He said, the first thing I do is I sit down with a blank Word document and I just write what's in my head. And that could be anything. That could be, my name's Aidy and I live in Congleton and, I do X, Y, Z. But eventually your mind will take you through to that topic and you'll start just to write about the topic. And then when you get back to it, you can edit it then. Snip it out, take the first 4 lines of rubbish that were just getting you warmed up out, start to break down the content into key information, expand on the bits you think, oh yeah, that was a good bit, that was a good sentence, that was a good phrase, and start to really pull that into a piece of content. The next thing, this is all around the fact that people scan read. And I really wanted to just provide an example of what that could look like. And here's an example of a piece of text. And, it says Nebraska is filled with internationally recognized attractions that draw large crowds of people every year without fail. In 1996, some of the most popular places were XYZ. And there is nothing wrong with that paragraph. In fact, it's incredibly well written. The grammar's good, the text is good. But if I was to look to put that online, I think it would make it very difficult for people to understand. Well, I can't tell. I've got 8 seconds. What's going on? I have no idea what's happening there. I just want the information I want. So if we look at how we can optimize that, if you like, it's like this. In 1996, 6 of the most visited places in Nebraska were bang, bang, bang. Very quickly, we've provided that information. I've not even really had to read the full top sentence. I kind of knew where it was going to and what it was going to say. And in the bullet point format, I could pick up on the ones I wanted to see. So if I'm planning a trip around Nebraska, for example, sure, it's a lovely place, I can quickly pick up on those pieces and say, right, yes, that's what I want to do. These are the information I need as a person. This website's been valuable. Actually, you know what, I'll keep looking. So the next thing is we've got the content together. We're starting to put some things down on paper, and hopefully we've got something we're quite happy with together. And really the next piece is how we distribute it. And this is can be quite powerful. Putting a piece of content on a website and just walking away very rarely attracts a lot of information to people unless you've got a big following already. And really the key ones to do that are paid social and paid media. They're pretty key. Scheduling is actually quite a powerful thing to do if you've got a high percentage of people that are your target audience. Through Google Analytics, you can see, when are the most 25 to 35-year-olds on my site. You can see when that is and schedule that content to appear in those peak times. And that will help with natural organic reach. And the other thing is SEO, which is search engine optimization. And, I think it's seen as a dark art for a lot of people, but it really isn't. It's just best practice. And I really don't want you to phase out now because I'm going into SEO. We'll keep it light and airy, that's for sure. So when we talk about SEO, we're really talking about Google, because Google is the number one search engine by far around the world. The first thing we'll do is go to Google. And it's important to consider there's 3 people in the relationship. There's you, who's the person who's writing it. There's your potential customer, and there's Google. And if we keep Google happy, it's highly likely we'll get in front of our potential customer. But there's little tricks and tips that we can do to keep Google happy in the way we write our content. And the key with Google is they rank our content on 3 key areas. Now, it used to be that Google would focus on keywords. So a lot of people would fire keywords into a piece of content. And we definitely need keywords in there because that creates a signal to Google to say, this is what this information is about. But using too many keywords can actually end up penalizing us. And what Google is attempting to do is really make sure that when someone searches on their site, that they are delivering an appropriate piece of information to them. So they really work on this EAT: expertise, authority, and trust. So is there expertise in the document? Who wrote it? What's their background? Is there authority, and is there trustworthiness? So do other people link to it? Is there information in there that's strong, robust? Is it honest? Is it true? Is it original content? Those kind of things are what they look at to really understand that. So it's really good to keep that in the back of your mind, but don't let it weigh you down as you write your content. Just write to start with. Good content isn't about quantity, and the reason I put there what you should publish is great content. I mean, that sounds obvious, but a lot of people will sacrifice good content over making sure they hit a deadline on Tuesday of each week. And really that, we go back to right at the beginning of the cycle of what people are doing with that content. They're reading it, they're promoting it, they're going through as a subscriber, they're becoming an advocate. If you start to deliver them poor content, they'll quickly drop out of that journey. So it's better to wait a week and get your content right than it is to just force a deadline. You know what? I've been looking for that spelling mistake all morning and now I've just seen it. Actionable content. Make sure your content is actionable. Give people something to take out of the content. Keep away from the fluff and the kind of top level process thinking. Give them something to do with it. And don't feel like you're giving up your trade secrets, because that's not what's happening. You're just giving value to the person who's reading it. And the other thing is provide examples. And we often don't do this because it takes time to go and get those examples, but provide examples because it really helps people relate and instantly feel like, okay, I've related to that. I understand it much better. I've got an action to take away from this. Okay, this content was really valuable to me. I'm going to share it, or I'm going to give it a like, give it a comment, whatever it might be. And the last thing is external supporting information. Use links within your text to things that might help within your site. And if you don't have that information or you're not the expert on it, link to somebody who is externally on a different site. Provide them added value, and it really helps from a Google perspective. So we'll quickly have a look at optimizing for SEO. And there's probably 3 top things you can look at as you're writing your piece of content. Optimize your title. So when you put a piece of content online, there'll be a space on your website or your backend or whatever it is you use to put it on, to put the title that will appear in Google. And this is a really good example of a good optimized title. How to develop a content strategy, a start to finish guide. Now, our natural kind of reaction will be fit as much information in there as possible. That's not always the best thing to do. I would suggest what most of us would do if we were creating something like that, it would just be how to develop a content strategy. And that's okay. But to stand out and differentiate, what HubSpot have done is just put that little extra piece, a start to finish guide. Now, as a user, when I see that, I think, I'm going to click on that one, because actually what that's demonstrating to me is it's the full works. I won't need to go anywhere other than that place once I've clicked on this link. And it's a really good way of just optimizing that title tag for click through, which is basically people clicking on the link and going to your site. The second thing is keyword density. So this is how many times you put a keyword into your content. And this is like a dark art and nobody really knows, but there's a general rule of thumb of 1 to 2%. So for every 100 words, mention your keyword once or twice, I think is really the key thing to do. And you can see a demonstration here of how that can be done. It doesn't have to all be together. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. As long as Google is seeing the flags to say this piece of content is related to SEO for students, we're happy. And the final thing is links. So as I said, here's a good piece of content that really indicates the best way of using those links. So as they've written this text, you can see they've hyperlinked certain words that people can go and get some more information on. So as they're reading this, if they don't really understand what an anchor text is, they can click it, it'll open a page. It may be within that website, it could be somewhere else, but they can get a better understanding of what an anchor text is, and then they can come back to the document and continue to read. That way they'll get a lot of value. But what Google will see is that you really understand what you're doing and what your topic is. And where you don't have the expertise, you are directing people to the expertise. And that's a great signal for getting you up the search rankings. So I'm conscious of time, but we're getting there, I promise. The last thing, and this is a bugbear of mine, is tracking it. We've developed a great piece of content. So what we've done so far is we've understood our audience, we've put ourselves a little strategy together, we've got a goal, we found a topic, we've got the keywords we're going to use. We have written that piece of content. We've made it as optimized as possible for the user experience. People are going to love it. We've optimized it for Google, so it's going to rank really high in the search results. Brilliant. That is going to be an ace piece of content. But in 6 weeks' time, my managers come to me and said, that 5 hours you invested in that piece of content or the £1,000 on that video, how did it do? And I didn't track it. So one of the really important things to do is to track it and understand what is working. As simple as that. And there's some various ways to do that. It doesn't have to be complex. Website traffic could be one way of looking at it. Have I simply increased the traffic to my site? And again, go back to your goal and maybe break that goal down at this point. If your goal overall is website traffic, break down your tracking to things like, am I getting the right people in the audience? Is it the 35 to 45s I wanted? Is it people located in the UK? Whatever it might be. And as long as those metrics are going up, your goal's going to go up, or the stat for your goal will go up. Maybe it might be user behavior. How much time are they spending on page? Are we getting a different percentage of new and returning users? How does that look? Impressions and click-through rates. So impressions is simply how many people have seen that item. That could be on a social search. It could be on a Google search. It doesn't matter. They don't have to have clicked on it. It's simply how many times was it put in front of somebody. And the click-through rate. So how many times did someone see that and click on it? That's quite a key one, because you can start to see if there's an issue. If it's high impressions but a low click-through rate, well, maybe our title tag isn't optimized. Maybe I need to just tweak that a little bit to encourage people to click on that link a bit more. Social shares is a good one. How many people have shared it? And keyword ranking. If you're looking to get your website further up the rankings in Google, this piece of content, did it help us with the target keyword rank a little higher for that? And the last thing I'll leave you with is that campaigns shouldn't be static. So when you're writing a piece of content, you might put it out there. Don't forget about it. Track it, understand what's happening. If it isn't performing, tweak it. It's the joy of the digital world. It's gone are the days of print where you can't change what you've written. You can really adjust it, add an image, change the way the text is written. Is it more conversational than it's necessary? Really have a play with it and see if it tweaks those metrics as you go through. So that's me. That's been a whirlwind tour. I'm very conscious it's 9:25, but I hope you got something from that, and it's been a pleasure to talk about it with you.
Oh, thank you, Adi. Thank you. And